So what was the next one? So you said, okay, that one's off the list, and very compelling arguments, based on your experience. What's the next one that would be an objection that you had to overcome?
Well, I mean, I think probably the most commonly, it's a lie. If it's a lie, we can explain why it's a lie. These guys came together and fabricated this story as a group for some purpose, perhaps to start a new world religion. You have to kind of understand what the purpose would be. It's, again, all motives come down to sex, power, or money.
Right.
So what you kind of ask, well, what are you really after here? But aside from that, this idea is pretty oftenly trafficked that this is a conspiracy. And I think people in our culture love conspiracy theories. We love to write fiction about them, to make movies about this, to think in our imagination. But it's probably because we've never worked conspiracies. If you start to work conspiracies and try to unravel these to prosecute conspirators on a crime, you realize how difficult it is to pull off a conspiracy. It actually takes 5 things. If you have these 5 things, you can successfully conspire to commit a crime, to tell a lie. I think there are successful conspiracies, but they're difficult. And when they succeed, they have these 5 things in common. The question then becomes, well, are these 5 things present for the disciples to successfully pull? And when people tell me, they think, look, I can describe for you. I know there are some successful conspiracies. Oh, really? So you know some successful conspiracies? Oh, yeah. Well, then by definition, they weren't successful, right?
Yeah.
Because by definition, if you want to succeed in this, you've got to be able to get away with it and no one even know about it.
Right.
That's why the fact that we know about so many conspiracies just proves my point.
Right.
You got to have these 5 things. Number 1, smallest possible number of co-conspirators. Again, this is not rocket surgery, right? I always mix that metaphor. But the point is, it really is just straightforward thinking. 2 people can lie, keep a secret, better than 22, 222. So if you think a large number of people are conspiring to keep a secret, think twice about it because it's really hard.
Right.
Also, keep it for the shortest possible amount of time. So a great conspiracy is where 2 people go out and do a crime together and then immediately one kills the other. Great conspiracy. Probably going to get away with it because you've only had to hold it for 1 day and you only had 2 to begin with. Now you have none, just 1. That's a good conspiracy. Third thing people don't think about is excellent communication between co-conspirators, because at some point, someone's going to get stopped and forced to make a statement. And then we're going to separate those folks and talk to the other guy.
Right.
And by the way, we're going to get into the weeds in terms of questions. We're not just going to do the surface stuff. We're going to go think about all kinds of crazy things that I'm sure you haven't thought about beforehand when you're getting your stories together. So your stories have to match. You have to be able to call and say, hey, what did he ask you? And what did you say? So you can actually say the same things. Or what shouldn't I say? Don't let it go in this direction. Okay, fine. But if you don't have great communication, it's hard.
Right.
The fourth thing is if you've got a family relationship or some bond that is, you have a familial relationship with somebody, you usually get away with things. I mean, moms, for example, are not going to rat off their kids because they have a familial relationship. So if you've got that that helps. And then the last thing is no pressure. If you've got no pressure, it's easy to get away with the lie. It's harder when people are pressuring you. So I'm looking at these 5 things that are required, and I'm asking myself, do any of these, exist for the disciples? We've got a group that is large, way too large. It's not just James, John, and Peter. It's the 12 at least. There's always a group of disciples. We have no idea, for example, how many disciples are in some of these accounts we have that saw the resurrection. We know this. Paul says at one time there were 500 people who saw the risen Christ together on the same day, and he challenges the Corinthians to go out and actually talk to those people. He says, because most of them are still alive and available for you to talk to. So that's a large group. You're suggesting there's 500 people involved in a conspiracy? I'm already skeptical.
Right.
I'll just be honest with you. To me, that's already way too many people. But then you got to hold it for the shortest period of time. And we're talking about not 6 minutes, that would be easy, or 6 hours, or 6 days, or 6 weeks, or 6 months, or 6 years. We're talking about 6 decades. 500 plus people are going to hold this tight without anyone ever recanting or changing their story for 6 decades. Okay?
Okay.
It's possible, but is it reasonable? Also, do they have any family ties? Well, there were some brothers in that first set of disciples, right? You have Peter and Andrew, you've got James and John, but you've got a lot of people who had no connection to the story aside from having seen it, like Matthew. What is in it for Matthew? He's not related to anyone. He wasn't even associated. He was Levi collecting taxes when he was entered into the group. He wasn't part of the discipleship of John the Baptist, not part of the discipleship of Jesus, yet he's writing a gospel. He doesn't flinch. Fourth thing, you gotta have great communication between co-conspirators. Really? Okay, you can't Snapchat each other, and they're not together.
Right.
They're all over the empire. You got some in India, Thomas. You got North Africa, Matthew. You've got Italy and Asia Minor and in Jerusalem. They're separated, and they're being pressured. That's the last thing, is pressure. They're being tortured, yet no one recants. I mean, is it possible? It's a lie. Of course it's possible. It's just not reasonable. Right. And so I couldn't hold on to that, having worked conspiracies. Because what we'll do is we will unwrap the conspiracy. We will separate people immediately because we're going to defeat their ability to communicate. We'll do all of these things. And I've done it over and over and over again. And as you do this, you realize, okay, yeah, it's possible, but man, it's not reasonable. And to me, this is far too long. Far too many people under far too much pressure. So I'm back to that same point where I've got a possible explanation, but it's not a reasonable explanation. Right. So off to the next explanation. And I just keep doing this, right? We can go one more step. Let's just go one more step for the sake of argument.
Good.
I think the top three explanations that are typically offered for the Gospels are, for the resurrection account, from an atheistic perspective, didn't really die, or this is a lie, or three, they imagined it because they wanted it. I mean, they clearly wanted it, and nobody wanted it in this group wanted to see Jesus die. They could have honestly just imagined it because they were so desperately wanting it to be true. You got Mary, she's by herself in the garden tomb. She sees the gardener. Oh, it's Jesus. No, Mary, it's the gardener. You imagine it to be Jesus because you so desperately want it. And you're by yourself. So, I can see why you might imagine that. And we've got an account of Peter by himself. We've got an account of James by himself. We've got an account of Paul on the road to Damascus. He's the only one who sees the figure of Jesus standing on the road to Damascus. Okay, well, I started having problems as I was assessing these, though, because I can see why maybe Peter or James or Mary would want to see Jesus alive, but why would Paul want Jesus to be alive? So now we're starting to, I think the idea that it's just a vision on the part of people who wanted it to be so becomes harder for me when it gets to Paul. And then you have a bigger problem because then you have multiple eyewitnesses who see the same thing and report it for years to come. It makes it into the Gospels. For example, the people on the road to Emmaus, they see Jesus. There's more than one person there. There's two at least. Now, that's tricky, right? Because if I told you I had a dream last night and you were able to recount the details of my dream, that would freak me out, right? Because we don't have group dreams.
Right.
If we have a group anything, it's going to be a group memory.
Right.
So now we have group accounts. We have 3 women at the tomb. We have 7 at the lake who see Jesus at the same time. We have 10 in the upper room. No Judas, no Thomas. Then we have Thomas return. We have 11. Then we have 11 again at the mountaintop. Could be more there. We have the ascension of Jesus. Could be more. We have 500 all together at one time, according to Paul. Really? So they're imagining this? These are group imaginations? And again, you could very easily falsify this. Just run back to the tomb. If you're imagining this, there should be a body in the tomb. Oh, no body in the tomb. Well, what's that about? Well, back to conspiracy theory? I mean, you see how everything kind of devolves back to some kind of conspiracy. Right. So again, these are I can see why we would want to offer these alternatives because they kind of get us out from the burden of having to consider Jesus the way that Christianity wants us to consider him. But at the same time, I look at that and I think, okay, well, these are all possible explanations that really, when push comes to shove, they don't work, which is why we see so many people offer new possibilities. Why do we have 6 or 7 explanations for this? Because everyone knows they don't work. Right. And they keep on offering a new one, hoping the one will stick to the wall. And it doesn't really work that way. It turns out there is one explanation, but boy, you'd have to surrender your naturalism. You'd have to surrender, and honestly, anyone who thinks seriously about their position already will have to admit there are some places in their own understanding of the universe where they've already surrendered their naturalism. They already know there has to be something more, something that starts all of this that can't be space, time, or matter. We already, if you think carefully, you already have. The only question left is that first cause personal? Or is the first cause an impersonal force? And that's where I got. At the end of all this, the only difference between Jim the atheist and Jim the believer was that Jim the atheist believed there was a cause that started the universe. That cause itself was uncaused, but that cause was an impersonal force, something we don't quite understand yet. We will someday. And that impersonal force kickstarts everything in the universe. Now, as a believer on this side, I still believe in that force, but that force is not impersonal because it turns out the best explanation for moral obligations, for the intelligent information we see in DNA, for the appearance of design we see in biology, for the fine-tuning of the universe. These things require a personal agent. That would be, now we're in the same place, something started the universe, but it seems to me that the personal agent could explain all the other stuff we see in the universe, whereas the impersonal force doesn't quite get it done. And so I realized that, hey, again, I'm back to that same place. If there's a personal agent that could do all of this, that's pretty powerful.
Right.
Probably could rise from the grave. Probably could walk on water. Probably could feed 5,000. Suddenly, all of that stuff seemed like child's play. And I was able to assess it in a different way.
That's it for this particular interview. Thanks for joining me. Really excited to take this ongoing journey with you as we keep bringing more content. If you haven't already, you really should subscribe to this channel. There's a lot of phenomenal content coming down the road into the future that you'll want to know about. Leave a comment down here. I think people would love to hear from you, and then you can hear from them too. If you liked it, go ahead and give a like. It only takes half a second, and share this with people that you care about. The world needs more light in it right now. So thanks for being with me. Hope to connect with you again soon.